Miss Stacy Wylie.
That's my girl right there. Get him, girl.
So Emmitt thought it was a thrill to front a so-called free speech to a white girl. Young and eager, promising boy did not realize that death would accompany his joy. Because you see, back in that time, it was nothing but a sheer privilege to be in the company of the majority. That was nothing but a delusion, and now I see that being the minority. Even though this young, handsome man was beaten until he died, his mother did much more than cry. She wiped her eyes and went to seek justice for this heinous act, yet did not lawfully prevail. For so long, our people, black people, were thought to be ignorant, uneducated, indignant, and belligerent. Hence the slang word used sparingly, derived from Negro. In honor of our ancestors first, and me being a black woman, I will not curse this audience with the word we all know so well. But luckily, Webster's pulled their dictionaries from the shelves and removed the word as well. I decided to start from the middle ground because before Emmitt Till's death, black people had 2 feet on the ground. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, 60 years before Emmitt Till's death, was the first black man with success to strategically open another man's chest. He preserved life with the slit of a surgical knife, pulled his flesh and bones apart to revive and suture that young man's heart. That story, that name, that doctor, that fame, buried for decades because the only thing black people should have carried back then was shame. 100 years before Emmitt Till's death, the slave unnamed was robbed for his best, creating the cotton gin. Though Eli Whitney's slave owner is the one who got it patented. Thinking logically, why would Eli really care about those brittle, bleeding, bruised fingers from removing cotton in the seeds? Sounds like a Negro came up with that idea to me. For so long, the black man was beaten to submission, weak and manipulated, while his woman was working in the kitchen, showing his beaten, bruised body to a point that his son was taught. The slave master was superior and will forever be his boss. Taught that black people were dumb because we were unable to learn, not knowing that we are smart because we are not unwilling to learn. Within 20 years before Emmitt Till's death, Eugene Bullard, unlike the rest, was the first African American to receive the Legion of Honor, France's highest. And back then, African Americans couldn't serve. Shouldn't dare cry to carry a torch for the Army Air Corps. And now, 90 years later, Mr. Barack Obama is the Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force. I thought I could tell you what happened before enforcement of the law, but now I'm going to let you know what Emmitt Till's death caused. Especially since the white men who murdered him were acquitted from this crime the civil rights movement encompassed this time. That's when Martin Luther King rallied his ever so lean team of all kind of men and women, not just black, that marched with this man and had his back. And through misfortune and poverty, so many black people solemnly locked up in penitentiaries, indulging in all inequities, and it was Mr. P.D. Green that said oh so real. He went to jail because he was a felon. Martin Luther King went to jail because he had a dream. Though it was oh so hard, Thurgood Marshall made his mark. Colin Powell left his scar. Malcolm X, though so perplexed, stood up and recognized his mistakes. And in black history, he still holds his place. Along with Condoleezza, the first African-American female to be Secretary of the State. Black people who met and surpassed the states and got dough just like Bill Gates. But you know what? That's not surprising. Black people stressfully tested, and yet we stayed rising, and that's something you call faith. Believing in something bigger, someone bigger than what you can see. Harriet Tubman made that apparent to me. She held no degree or professional knowledge, just her good faith and sense ensured them people in that Underground Railroad sure followed. So while there may be wealth among our black leaders this day, I want you to know my firm belief that faith and prayer led the way. For so long, mentally, emotionally, physically stripped from our flesh pie, one thing we could never be stripped from was God. Madam C.J. Walker, Oprah Winfrey, Ruby D, everlasting impact. Check out that feedback. Angela Bassett, Cicely Tyson, Hattie McDaniel, they wouldn't drop a piece of clothing for Academy Award or Grammy fame. Look how far we've come in the game. Successful black athletes, I said with you their names. Jackie Robinson, Jackie Joyner Kersey, Willie Thorwood, Tiger Woods, even Stephon Marbury made it about the hood. Mistaken that blacks are only promising in sports, but Denzel Washington, Cornel West, Alice Walker, they extracted that point. These African Americans before and after Emmitt Till's death are reputable, accomplished, esteemed, and in my eyes the best, and it was said that we should overcome or scratch that. We have overcame the ignorance, the shame, and the chains. That we don't dance unless we hear music and scratch our heads unless it itches. We will not be intimidated with hatred, brutality, or whips, or tree limbs, or nooses. We're not clueless to how we can succeed in being strong oak trees. An ignorant man said he couldn't stand a black man being president. Said he was counting down the days till Obama was elected out of office. Yep, took 365 days and times it by 4 to equal to the inauguration date. 1,460 minus the 19 days that equal to the date that he made that statement. So at that point, it was like 1,441 days ago. I thought that was pretty funny, not humorous, but I thought that ignorant man should know that the suffering of a black man was 146,000 days, 146,000 ways to keep an oppressed our race. And he was skipping about 1,441 days for a black man in the president's place. I wanted to scream, but because of Emmitt Till's death that led to Martin Luther King's dream, I couldn't get in the satisfaction of my intellectual gleam. I just looked at him and smiled as if we was old chums, while thinking to myself, life is hard enough already, it's even harder when you're dumb. I can speak all day, but the message will be known, the road is set, so we black black people could stand and go pro. To be doctors, lawyers, professors, teachers, engineers. No longer will our youth sit with tears. No more bloody tears. No more wondering why we're here, because we're citizens, right? We all come from a grounded line, strong genes, well respected. Robert Starworth, my granddad, worked for the prestigious Procter & Gamble as one of the first black quality inspectors. May he rest in peace. Not he nor other relatives, yours or mine, had missed this true moment in history to shine. So I'm proud that I can tell my sons, all four of them, that they determine their worth as they become strong black men. I'm proud I can tell both my daughters the sky is the limit. And yes, they can if they are in it to win it. So now 50 years plus since Emmitt Till's death, God done shown up, he done shown out, and we as black people are and have always been truly blessed.